Tyler Brennan had been CIO for exactly 8 months, long enough to develop opinions about everything and expertise in nothing. He'd arrived from some fintech startup called Technovault that folded 6 months after his departure, armed with buzzwords and a management style borrowed from reality TV. His hiring had been Amanda Cross's biggest mistake as CEO. The board loved his presentation about digital transformation and cloud-first strategies. They ate up his promises to modernize our infrastructure in record time. What they didn't see was the trail of devastated IT departments he'd left behind. I'd done my homework after his first week. Technovault's collapse had been spectacular. Entire client databases vanished overnight, security breaches that made headlines, lawsuits that were still working through the courts. But Tyler had jumped ship before the investigations concluded, landing at Greyhound with a polished LinkedIn profile and selective amnesia about his past. The cloud migration had been my baby from conception. I'd spent 18 months mapping every database, cataloging every dependency, documenting every potential failure point. Our current system was a beautiful disaster, 15 years of organic growth that created a digital ecosystem so complex it bordered on sentient. Most IT professionals would have recommended burning it all down and starting fresh. But I understood something Tyler never could: this chaos had personality. Every workaround told a story, every redundant system served a purpose. The payroll database talked to the customer management system through a series of scheduled scripts I'd written during the Bush administration. Inelegant? Absolutely. Functional? Like clockwork. My migration plan read like a love letter to redundancy: backup strategies layered 3 deep, rollback procedures tested and retested, contingency plans for contingency plans. The timeline was conservative: 24 months for complete migration, with parallel systems running for 6 months to ensure stability. Tyler wanted flashy consultants with PowerPoint presentations. Meridian Solutions had swooped in with promises of revolutionary methodologies and accelerated timelines. Their proposal looked like it was designed by someone who'd learned about IT infrastructure from motivational posters. Their lead architect, Brandon Wells, wore expensive suits and spoke exclusively in acronyms. He'd arrived for our initial meeting 45 minutes late, blamed traffic, then proceeded to explain how his team could accomplish in 6 months what I'd mapped as a 2-year journey. Legacy systems are just technical debt, he'd announced, gesturing at my carefully crafted dependency charts. Our proprietary migration tools eliminate complexity through automated optimization. Automated optimization. The phrase made my teeth ache. I watched from my desk as they commandeered the conference room, whiteboards covered in diagrams that looked impressive but meant nothing. Brandon gestured wildly while Tyler nodded like a bobblehead, occasionally interjecting with phrases he'd obviously memorized from business magazines. "We need to move fast and break things," Tyler declared during one particularly painful meeting. Disruption is the new normal. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd sidelined the person who knew where all the bodies were buried, literally and figuratively. I'd been present for every major system failure in company history. The great email crash of 2019 when we discovered our backup servers were backing up corrupted data. The inventory meltdown of 2021 that nearly cost us our biggest client. Each disaster had taught me something valuable about the delicate balance keeping Greyhound operational. But Tyler saw only obstacles where I saw institutional knowledge. To him, I represented the old way of doing things: careful, methodical, boring. He wanted innovation, excitement, transformation. He was about to get all 3, though not in ways he'd anticipated. Monday morning brought the official handover meeting. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Tyler had arranged the seating so Meridian Solutions occupied one side of the table while I sat alone on the other, like some kind of corporate tribunal. Brandon arrived with 3 associates whose names I'd already forgotten. They spread laptops and tablets across the mahogany surface like they were claiming territory. Tyler dominated the conversation while Brandon scribbled notes that would later become billable hours. "Johanna will transfer all documentation to the Meridian team," Tyler announced, not bothering to look my way. "Consider this a learning opportunity for you." Learning opportunity. The phrase every manager used when they wanted to sugarcoat professional humiliation. I'd heard it before, usually right before someone's budget got slashed or their department got restructured. Sandra Collins sat beside Tyler, taking notes on an iPad with religious devotion. She'd appointed herself as his chief chronicler, documenting his every pronouncement like some kind of corporate gospel. Her presence at a technical meeting made about as much sense as a fish at a board meeting, but Tyler liked having an audience for his performances. I'd been here when the payroll system crashed 3 Christmases ago, stranding 200 employees without holiday bonuses. I'd held this company together with duct tape and determination while executives played golf at conferences in Florida. Now I was being lectured by someone who couldn't tell a server from a service pack. The documentation is comprehensive, I said quietly. Every system dependency, every integration point, every potential failure scenario. Great, great. Tyler waved dismissively. Brandon's team will handle the technical details. They're experts. Brandon smiled the kind of smile that charged by the hour. We appreciate your input, but our proprietary methodology streamlines the entire process. We'll have you migrated in half the time with double the efficiency. Half the time. Double the risk. Simple mathematics that apparently escaped everyone except me. One of Brandon's associates, a kid who looked like he'd graduated from coding boot camp last Thursday, leaned forward with the confidence only youth and ignorance could provide. Legacy systems create unnecessary complexity. Our approach eliminates technical debt through aggressive modernization. Aggressive modernization. Another phrase for my growing collection of corporate non sequiturs. I opened my laptop and began the handover. Every document, every diagram, every painstakingly crafted contingency plan, I transferred it all to their shared drive. Months of work reduced to gigabytes of data they'd probably never read. They wanted to own this project? They could own every consequence too. The dependency maps alone represented 6 months of analysis. I traced every connection between our 47 different systems, documented every data flow, mapped every potential point of failure. The documentation included detailed rollback procedures, testing protocols, and validation checklists that would ensure data integrity throughout the migration process. Brandon glanced at his laptop screen, scrolling through folders with the attention span of a caffeinated teenager. This seems overly complicated. Our tools automate most of these processes. Automation is only as good as the parameters you feed it, I replied. These systems have evolved organically over 15 years. Each connection serves a specific business function. That's exactly the problem, Tyler interjected. Too much organic growth, not enough strategic planning. Brandon's team will impose proper structure. Proper structure. Right. Because nothing said strategic planning like handing system control to people who'd spent less than a week studying our infrastructure. I continued the transfer methodically, narrating each folder's contents like a tour guide in a museum of digital archaeology. Configuration files for servers that powered critical business processes. Database schemas that represented years of iterative improvement. Backup procedures tested during actual disasters, not theoretical scenarios. They wanted complete ownership? They could have it, along with every midnight emergency, every weekend crisis call, every moment of crushing responsibility that came with keeping a company's digital heartbeat steady. As the meeting concluded, Tyler stood with theatrical flourish. This marks a new chapter for Greyhound Enterprises. We're finally moving into the future. The future, apparently, involved ignoring the past and hoping for the best. I packed my laptop slowly, watching as Brandon's team scattered to various corners of the building like tourists exploring a foreign country. They had maps now, but no understanding of the territory they were about to traverse. Tuesday afternoon, Tyler stopped by my desk with a formal directive. Written authorization on company letterhead, his signature bold and confident at the bottom. The document looked official, professional, and completely damning in hindsight. Effective immediately, you're to cease all cloud migration activities. Transfer system administrator privileges to Brandon Wells and his team. Full access, no restrictions. I read the document twice, then a third time for good measure. Clean, unambiguous language that left no room for interpretation. Tyler wanted complete separation, no oversight, no safety net, no experienced voice whispering cautions in anyone's ear. The irony was delicious. For months, I'd been begging for additional administrative support, arguing that our infrastructure was too complex for one person to manage effectively. Now Tyler was granting that support in the most dangerous way possible. You want me to transfer root access to external consultants? I asked, my voice flat as stale soda. They need complete control to execute properly. Consider it an executive decision. An executive decision. Those 3 words would echo beautifully in the investigation report that would inevitably follow. I pulled up the administrative console, my fingers moving with practiced efficiency. The system recognized my credentials immediately. 15 years of late nights had earned me the kind of access that came with both privilege and crushing responsibility. User accounts created. Permissions granted. Access levels elevated to God-tier status. Each click was deliberate, each setting intentional. I wasn't just following orders, I was creating a perfect paper trail that would document exactly who authorized what and when. The system prompted me to confirm several high-risk permissions. Administrative access to production databases. Modification rights for critical configuration files. Authorization to alter backup schedules and security protocols. Each confirmation dialogue felt like another nail in Tyler's professional coffin. Brandon's team now had the keys to the kingdom, and I had official documentation proving I'd only followed explicit executive directives. My phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca Foster, our former CTO who'd left 6 months earlier. Heard about the migration project. How's it going? I typed back, exactly as expected. She responded with 3 crying laughing emojis. Rebecca understood corporate dynamics better than most. She'd lasted exactly 2 meetings with Tyler before updating her LinkedIn profile and scheduling interviews elsewhere. The beauty of Tyler's directive was its completeness. He hadn't just removed me from the project, he'd explicitly prohibited any involvement whatsoever. No advisory role, no consultation, no gentle guidance when things inevitably went sideways. He wanted the consultants to operate in a vacuum, and I was happy to provide exactly that level of isolation. As I logged the access transfers in my personal documentation system, I felt a strange sense of professional satisfaction. Not revenge, that was too crude, too emotional. This was something pure, the elegant symmetry of cause and effect, action and consequence. Tyler had wanted to exclude me from the migration process? Done. He'd wanted external consultants to have complete control? Granted. He'd wanted rapid transformation without institutional knowledge slowing things down? Delivered with a bow on top. Sometimes the most professional response to poor management was perfect compliance. Wednesday brought unusual quiet. No urgent emails cluttering my inbox, no crisis calls interrupting my morning coffee, no frantic troubleshooting sessions stretching past midnight. I focused on routine maintenance tasks while the consultants worked their magic behind closed doors. The silence felt unnatural. For 3 years, I'd been the company's digital firefighter, rushing from crisis to crisis with solutions cobbled together from experience and caffeine. Now I sat at my desk updating documentation for systems I was no longer authorized to touch, watching my former responsibilities disappear behind conference room doors. Alexis Martinez from customer service stopped by around noon. Have you noticed anything weird with the ordering system? Customers are reporting strange error messages. I looked up from my screen, expression carefully neutral. I'm no longer involved with system maintenance. You should contact the migration team. But you built half of these systems. Can't you just take a quick look? Tyler was very clear about my role. Any technical issues should go through Brandon Wells now. Alexis frowned, confused by my sudden adherence to corporate hierarchy. For years, I'd been the person who fixed problems first and worried about proper channels later. Now I was quoting company policy like some kind of bureaucratic convert. Thursday morning, whispers started circulating through the office like smoke from an unseen fire. Emily from accounting mentioned some transaction discrepancies, nothing dramatic, just numbers that didn't quite add up when cross-referenced between systems. Roberto from customer service reported intermittent system slowdowns that lasted exactly long enough to frustrate users without triggering automatic alerts. The signs were subtle but unmistakable if you knew what to look for. Database queries timing out after 30 seconds instead of the usual 5. File transfers taking twice as long as normal. Customer records occasionally displaying information from different accounts, creating a data cocktail that would make privacy lawyers weep. I kept my expression neutral while internal alarms screamed. They were rushing the migration, skipping crucial validation steps, ignoring the dependency maps I'd spent months creating. But Tyler had been crystal clear, this was no longer my responsibility. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexis, data integrity errors cropping up everywhere. Customers getting wrong invoices, orders shipping to incorrect addresses. What's happening? I typed back, not my project anymore. Check with Brandon. The beauty of following orders precisely was the absolute clarity it provided. When systems failed, and they would fail, spectacularly and completely, the responsibility would rest exactly where Tyler had placed it. Thursday afternoon, I received an email from our biggest client, Morrison Industries. Their automated purchasing system had been trying to process a routine order for 3 hours without success. The error log showed database connection timeouts, authentication failures, and data corruption warnings, a greatest hits collection of everything that could go wrong during a poorly executed migration. I forwarded the email to Brandon Wells with a simple note, FYI, as per executive directive dated, Tuesday's date, all system issues should be directed to your team. Brandon's response came back an hour later, thanks, we're aware of some minor integration challenges. Should be resolved shortly. Minor integration challenges. The phrase was so perfectly inadequate I almost laughed out loud. Friday arrived with ominous calm. I spent the morning updating my resume while chaos built like atmospheric pressure before a storm. Around noon, I noticed Brandon hadn't been seen since Wednesday evening. His team looked increasingly pale and frazzled, huddled around laptops with expressions that suggested they'd just discovered their parachutes were actually decorative scarves. The customer service department had started routing technical calls directly to Tyler's office, claiming they couldn't reach anyone from the migration team. Tyler spent most of Friday afternoon in closed-door meetings, his voice occasionally rising to levels that penetrated soundproof walls. I ate lunch at my desk, enjoying a sandwich while watching the corporate equivalent of a slow-motion train wreck unfold around me. Every few minutes, someone would glance in my direction with desperate hope, then remember Tyler's explicit instructions about my non-involvement. Professional detachment had never felt so satisfying. Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. I was reviewing backup logs when Tyler burst through the office doors like a man possessed. His perfect hair disheveled, his Italian jacket wrinkled, his face the color of spoiled milk. The transformation was remarkable, from polished executive to panicked disaster victim in 72 hours. "Why is all our data corrupted?" he shouted, his voice cracking on the last syllable. The entire office went silent. Keyboards stopped clicking, conversations died mid-sentence, coffee cups froze halfway to lips. Even the copy machine seemed to hold its breath. The fluorescent lights hummed their eternal dirge while Tyler stood in the center of the open floor plan like some kind of corporate Shakespearean tragedy. I looked up slowly, my expression carefully neutral. "I'm sorry, could you clarify?" "I was taken off the cloud migration project, remember? Don't play games with me." Tyler's hand shook as he pointed in my direction. "Our entire customer database is compromised. Payroll records are missing. Financial data is scattered across 17 different servers in 3 time zones." The specificity of his panic was almost artistic. 17 servers. 3 time zones. Someone had been getting detailed briefings about the scope of the disaster. "That sounds serious," I replied, my tone carrying all the emotional weight of reading a grocery list. "Have you contacted the consultants handling the migration?" Tyler's eye began twitching, a small muscular rebellion that suggested his nervous system was finally catching up with his situation. They're working on it remotely." Senior management began filtering into the common area, drawn by Tyler's theatrical performance. CEO Amanda Cross emerged from the elevator, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern as she surveyed the scene. Finance Director Carlos Rodriguez followed, along with Operations Manager Helen Wright. The executive team assembled like shareholders at a bankruptcy hearing. "What exactly happened?" Amanda's voice cut through Tyler's hysteria like a blade. I stood, laptop in hand, and walked to the center of the room. 26 steps from my desk to the presentation area. I'd counted them during countless staff meetings where I'd watched other people take credit for my work. Now the spotlight was finally mine, and I intended to use it wisely. Tyler issued written authorization for me to transfer complete system control to Meridian Solutions. I followed his instructions precisely. I pulled up the documentation on my screen, projecting it onto the wall monitor. Tyler's signature glowed under the fluorescent lights like a neon confession. The document looked official, authoritative, and completely damning. Every word carefully chosen, every instruction explicitly stated. "You were supposed to provide oversight." Tyler sputtered. "You should have stopped them." The accusation hung in the air like smoke from a discharged weapon. Here was the moment I'd been preparing for since Tuesday afternoon, the inevitable attempt to shift responsibility back to the person who actually understood the systems. Actually, I continued, scrolling through email chains with deliberate precision, you explicitly prohibited my involvement. Quote, Johanna is to cease all cloud migration activities immediately. No consultation, no oversight, no interference with the contracted professionals. Amanda's eyes moved from the projected documents to Tyler's increasingly panicked face. The silence stretched taut as a guitar string while everyone processed the implications. Tyler had created the perfect isolation chamber, then blamed the person he'd locked outside when everything went wrong. Where are the consultants now? Amanda asked, her CEO voice sharp enough to cut glass. Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for water. They said they needed to return to their home office to troubleshoot remotely. When was the last anyone heard from them? Thursday evening. The admission landed like a physical blow. Thursday evening, 3 days ago. 3 days of radio silence while Greyhound's digital infrastructure burned around them. Amanda's expression could have frozen hellfire. Are you telling me you gave complete administrative access to external contractors who have now disappeared with our entire data infrastructure in shambles? Tyler's response came in fragments, broken syllables that sounded like a man trying to explain why he'd handed house keys to burglars. The Italian leather jacket suddenly looked like a costume from a play he'd forgotten he was performing in. They're professionals, he managed finally. Highly recommended. Their reputation is impeccable. Their reputation, Amanda repeated, her voice carrying the kind of calm that preceded corporate executions. What do you know about their reputation, Tyler? I cleared my throat softly. If I may? Amanda nodded, her eyes never leaving Tyler's face. I took the liberty of researching Meridian Solutions after our initial meeting. They're currently facing lawsuits from 3 previous clients for similar disasters. Their last project resulted in a data breach that compromised 40,000 customer records. Brandon Wells was previously employed by a company that folded after losing 90% of their client data during a migration. The words fell into silence so complete it felt vacuum-sealed. Tyler's face cycled through several colors before settling on a pale green that matched the company's logo. You knew this? Amanda's question was directed at Tyler, but her tone suggested she already knew the answer. The references were positive. Their proposal was very compelling. Their proposal, Amanda repeated. Did anyone actually verify their claims? More silence. The kind of silence that preceded pink slips and congressional hearings. The next 6 hours unfolded like a masterclass in corporate accountability. Emergency meetings cascaded through every level of management while I methodically implemented disaster recovery procedures, the same procedures I designed 18 months earlier and Tyler had dismissed as overcomplicated. Amanda had assigned me temporary system administrator privileges within 30 minutes of the showdown. No bureaucracy, no committee discussions, just executive authority applied with surgical precision. Fix this, she'd said. Whatever you need, whoever you need, however long it takes. The damage assessment took 2 hours. Brandon's team had attempted to migrate our entire infrastructure over a single weekend, ignoring every dependency map, skipping every validation step, and disabling backup systems they didn't understand. It was like watching someone perform heart surgery with a butter knife, ambitious, aggressive, and catastrophically stupid. Our customer database had been partially migrated to 3 different cloud providers, creating a digital Frankenstein monster that nobody could successfully query. Financial records were scattered across servers in different time zones, with timestamps that would make forensic accountants weep. Payroll data had been optimized by removing what the consultants considered redundant fields, like employee social security numbers and bank routing information. The beautiful part was my backup system. While Tyler and his consultants were busy revolutionizing our infrastructure, my parallel backup environment had been quietly maintaining perfect copies of everything. Every transaction, every record, every configuration setting, preserved in meticulous detail. By 3 p.m., I'd restored 94% of our systems from secure backups the consultants hadn't known existed. Customer data intact, payroll recovered, financial records reconstructed. The company would survive, though not without scars and certainly not without lessons learned. Tyler spent the afternoon cleaning out his desk while Amanda personally supervised. His belongings fit into 2 cardboard boxes, a surprisingly small collection for someone who'd made such a large impact. Sandra Collins helped him carry boxes to the parking garage, her usual enthusiasm notably absent. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Amanda brought in an external consulting firm, a real one this time, with verifiable references and a track record of successful migrations. Their preliminary report read like a horror story written by someone with an advanced degree in systems administration. Meridian Solutions had vanished completely. Their office address led to a mailbox rental service. Their website had been scrubbed from the internet, leaving behind only cached pages and broken links. Brandon Wells had apparently never existed. The name was an alias used by someone whose real identity remained mysterious. Tyler's replacement, a competent woman named Rebecca Foster, arrived by Wednesday and immediately asked for my assessment of our infrastructure needs. She spent her first day reviewing my documentation with the kind of attention Tyler had never bothered providing. I presented her with a comprehensive security audit, a revised migration timeline, and a detailed postmortem that would become mandatory reading for future executives. Every recommendation backed by data, every suggestion grounded in painful experience. How long will the proper migration take? Rebecca asked during our first planning meeting. 3 months, done correctly. 2 months if you want to risk another disaster. She smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from executive leadership in recent memory. 18 months it is. Will you lead the project? I accepted with the same measured calm I'd maintained throughout the crisis. No dramatics, no victory laps, just quiet satisfaction that competence had finally been recognized. The promotion came with a significant salary increase, expanded team, and budget authority that Tyler had never possessed. The best part was the memo Amanda sent to all department heads. Future technology initiatives will require approval from our Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately. All external consulting engagements must be thoroughly vetted and continuously supervised by internal staff. Chief Technology Officer. My new title carried weight that Tyler's executive posturing never could. Real authority backed by demonstrated competence, earned through crisis management rather than granted through corporate politics.